the prospects that got away. And sometimes you do all you can do, but sometimes you drop the ball. And that's very, very different. You don't want to put all of those hours into landing a prospect and boom, he's gone. All right. So let me start with Butch Jones. What did he refer to as one of his biggest losses? I'm assuming while at Tennessee.
He referred to, and actually this is the first time we're not going to attack Butch Jones because this one's not his fault. And it was Vonn Bell. He took over in December of 2012, about 2 months before signing day, and he and his staff immediately tried to make Vonn Bell a priority. But it was just too late in the process, and they weren't going to get him at that point.
And I have told you before, it was so Tennessee was so behind. It didn't matter if Nick Saban had taken the head coaching job at Tennessee with Vonn Bell. They were so far behind. And yes, and sometimes you have a Lyle or Dooley, the Smoky Mountain Red said, that can affect it. So go ahead and plug it in there. Your thoughts on big losses. But Vonn Bell, I would say in the past 10, 15, 20 years, last recruiting generation, that was the one that Tennessee had the easiest and would have had the biggest impact if you want to combine those two.
Yeah, I agree. That was a layup. They never should have lost out on Vonn Bell. Now, to be fair, I mean, you tell me, did Dooley lose out on Jalen Ramsey, or was he never going to Tennessee?
He was never, ever interested in Tennessee.
Okay,
so I won't hold that one against him. Now, I will hold it against him if I'm not astute enough, lucky enough, whatever the word is, that if I find a Jalen Ramsey as a reporter and he turns out to get offers from everywhere based off the video that I posted, why wouldn't he call me and say, "Hey, Dave, can you help give me any insight?" Philip Fulmer would have done that. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's pretty bad recruiting. I mean, he never had a chance because he never gave himself a chance.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So it was and Jones did say it's the one time I'm okay with him blaming a previous staff because he said we tried to make up for lost time. Now, knowing Butch Jones the way I know him, he's probably trying to subtly say that that's the reason he didn't work out at Tennessee was he didn't land Vonn Bell, because that's how Butch Jones operates. But I'm not going to throw him under the bus for that yet because he didn't explicitly say that. But I think that's in his head because Butch can never take responsibility for when he messed up. But
totally agree. So Vonn Bell is his big. That's the one he cites as his big loss, when in reality there's nothing he could do. So that's kind of sociopathic in and of itself. The biggest mistake I made, I couldn't have avoided.
Yeah, you're right.
What I'm saying about the irony of that.
You're absolutely right. That's so true. That's like when presidents talk about their biggest mistake as president, and they always talk about a bill that didn't get through Congress. And I'm like, so you're saying it's not my fault? You're saying it's because Congress didn't pass it?
We'd be like Krypton before General Zod got those important numbers. I mean, we would have been the most peaceful, awesome place in the world. We would have been Krypton if I could have got that water erosion bill passed. But that other crazy politician just threw me off. So this is the same thing. This is, don't blame me. My name's Butch Jones. Derek Dooley screwed that up, and he royally did. I mean, I'll defend him. But, I mean, there was no way they were going to get back in there. Now, maybe with the transfer portal, you probably could have gotten him to come back, but he was doing pretty darn good.
Butch's biggest recruiting mistakes were the players that he didn't put at the right position after they committed to Tennessee. Jalen Hurd and Khalil McKenzie, most notably.
Before, what about the fact that he tried to play TJ Watt at tight end? You knew that, right?
I did know that. That.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer. Harrell Group Security Solutions wouldn't make that mistake because they're about leadership experience and specialization. Look them up, HarrellGRP.com. We know about the terrible situation with the shooting in Kansas City. Well, Harrell Group Security Solutions has just incredibly highly trained individuals to make your workplace safer, make your children's school safer. These are going to happen again, unfortunately. Let's make your children's school safer. We're working with private schools now. We want to work with public schools. And then Steve Spurrier referenced, again, Harrell Group Security Solutions. Steve Spurrier referenced trying to get Peyton Manning. Was that joke. They were never in the running.
Well, he was trying to recruit Peyton Manning. Yeah, he said he told a story where he said Peyton came in and he came in the same weekend Kirby Smart came in. And he said they sort of palled around together. But he said the next Tuesday or so they
Kirby
recruited
Smart would have been like the same age as Peyton Manning, wouldn't he? Or
Kirby Smart intercepted a Peyton Manning pass.
Yeah, I know. So that's what was weird.
Yeah. But
okay.
He said
So
that Spurrier to be.
I was just gonna say real quick that hits me at first crazy that Steve Spurrier would say he could have gotten Peyton Manning, but if you look at all of their decisions, they've been business decisions, including Sarkisian to coach be coached by Cut at Ole Miss, to be coached by Cut at Tennessee. They've all been business decisions, so maybe he could have ended up for Steve Spurrier. My gosh, that would have driven Tennessee fans insane.
He would. How unstoppable would he have been?
I mean that I always thought they kind of fell short in just winning one title. They win 3 with him easy.
Yeah, the thing is, I think, and Spurrier said it worked out best because they had Danny Warfel. He said we've got Danny Warfel, and they had another kid. You may remember him, Eric Kresser, at the time, and basically, I think the reason Peyton probably wasn't going there ever was because Warfel was a sophomore when Peyton was committing. So you don't want to sit behind a guy for 3 years. So that was probably out of the question anyway. The big thing with Spurrier that stood out to me.
By the way, you that was more insightful than you know. That was the big thing that Peyton Manning always said. He said he didn't care to go in with a class like Brandon Stewart, but he would never come in a year behind. He actually said that publicly a lot during his recruitment.
Oh, I did not know that, which is why that's why Florida was never in the running, because Warfel was already starting as a freshman. Right. And so, but the thing is, Spurrier, now, look, Steve Spurrier is just honest. He's not a liar, but is this Bush League or not? Because Bobby Bowden is no longer with us. But he talked about recruiting tussles with Florida State. And while he never called them out, and I'm going to quote this and not do a Spurrier impression because I can't do a Spurrier impression, but he said, quote, when we were going up against them, they were an independent school, so I hate to say it, but nobody was looking over their shoulders about the rules and all this and that and the other. And he said that they'd bring in some recruits and their moms would say, Coach, your parking lot of cars don't look near as good as those up at FSU. And he said, yeah, I know. That's the way it is right now. That's all right. So they probably out-recruited us a little bit back in the 90s. And, of course, Miami was down there recruiting very well then. So he basically said Florida State was cheating to beat them in recruiting.
Yeah, but in all fairness, I mean, come on. Steve Spurrier wanted to get out by 4 or 5 o'clock to go play golf. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and that was definitely in the off season, like during spring camp, but it was sometimes even in the regular season where there might be a day to get out of there a little bit early. So, come on. I think that's an easy cop out. I think if he looks back at it, he probably says to himself, if I'd have been an absolute dogged recruiter, I could have won 3 or 4 or 5 championships like Nick Saban did. Now that's a big if, because that's absolutely no fun. Tennessee Cider Company, the original hard cider, the Smoky Mountains. Use the promo code HAT. That's HAT to receive some free swag with your cider order. Available most anywhere in the United States of America. And we're going to tell you some cool stuff about Hooker's Corner, our Patreon group coming up. Also, Ron Slay in a matter of moments. What other big recruiting heartbreaks were out there that could have changed the face of the sport? Because when you talk about Peyton Manning going to play for Steve Spurrier, A, they're a lot better, but B, Tennessee's not as good. So that would change the whole feel of that September Tennessee-Florida game. I mean, I'm sorry, but if the best offensive-minded coach has the best offensive player in the game, if that was Spurrier and Manning, I mean, no offense, Brandon Stewart or Philip Fulmer, but matching up against those two guys kind of feels like, one of those midget wrestling things where you're wrestling somebody a lot smaller. I don't see that being an even fight whatsoever. Spurrier Manning versus Stewart Fulmer. Yeesh.
The only thing I think may have actually helped Tennessee in that situation is one of their problems against Florida was I felt that they put too much on Manning those 3 years where they, with Stewart, maybe they would have actually played a little more ball control and maybe played a little more patient with Brandon Stewart, like they did with T. Martin in 98. So it's before I get to some other ones. I just want to point out what you said about Spurrier was, I think Spurrier hated the sales part of recruiting because he can't sell. He's too honest to be a salesman, isn't he? And so, like, the story with Emmitt Smith, where Emmitt Smith wanted Spurrier to like recruit him to stay for a senior year, and Spurrier basically said, "Can you make a decision so I can know what to do with my running backs?" And so that's how he operated.
I don't even think it was the BS salesman aspect of it, because he wasn't selling BS. He was selling a great program. So I think there's some people that sell BS, and it is kind of cheesy because they know it's not great. I think it was just the time spent doing it as opposed to being on the golf course. I think it was
we talked about EA Sports. Spurrier's coaching football for him was like playing EA Sports for the rest of us. He just wanted to call the plays in a game, and that's why he coached football. He liked calling offensive plays in a game. That was his thing. So,
very true.
So yeah, as far as some other ones that were interesting, you brought up Barry Switzer. Another one just real quick is it sounds like Danny Ford and Clemson missed out on Herschel Walker in 1980, and they were really trying to get him. Reggie Bush, Mark Helfrich at Arizona State was trying to get Reggie Bush at the time. Remember, USC was not USC when he ended up at USC. And Barry Switzer talked about Earl Campbell and thought that they had him. And it sounds like he basically he says NIL stands for now it's legal. He basically was also saying there was a lot of cheating going on in the Southwest, or in the southwestern region of the country, even though Oklahoma wasn't the Southwest Conference. But we all knew that. I mean, let's be honest. There was never a place that was cheating more than Texas schools, was there, in the 70s and 80s?
Yes.